What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Wednesday, September 20th of 2023? It is episode 92. And for those keeping score at home, it's been almost a month. And there's a reason for that, where we have not recorded in basically a month. And it's not because I absolutely hate David. I do, but that's not the only reason. Hi, David. You're here.
Hi. And it's because you're a big baby.
You
have all little stomach pains, and then you can't record for a month.
You see, this is where Dave is not useful to the conversation, but I had gallstones. I had my gallbladder removed. So yeah, I guess I am kind of a baby, but spent 5 days in the hospital. Got, it's weird. They do incisions and they rip the gallbladder out of your belly button now. So it's kind of weird. I sent David a disgusting picture of my belly like the day after I got
no one wanted to see that. No one asked for it. You just put it in the group.
If anybody's a Harry Potter fan, it just looked like the Sorting Hat's mouth. That's all I saw. So that's why I sent it to you, because you needed to see it. But before we get into all the fun stuff, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the socials. Go search the Alex Cuesta Show. And the last time you heard from us, we had a great guest on, but it was a long time ago. A lot of things have happened. We had Ryan James Girdusky on. He has a very cool Substack. National Populist Newsletter Substack. He's very, very smart political analyst, somebody that if you like politics, if you're on the right, if you're a conservative, he's someone I recommend. He's, if you're a MAGA person, he is Team DeSantis, but he's a smart Team DeSantis. He's not one of those idiot Team DeSantis guys on Twitter. So definitely go give him a follow. Go look and listen to that episode. It was really good. This week, though, Dave, we're getting back to our local roots. And every time we've had someone from our hometown, Manchester, on, it's been a really fun show. And this isn't going to be any exception, because this person is someone that, I can't even think how long I've actually known him for. It's got to be well over 20 years now, which is
I believe ridiculous. You've cursed someone for as long as you've cursed me.
Well, it's ridiculous to think about. I've known this guest possibly before you were born, maybe a little bit after you were born, but it's close. It's Tim Paas. He's a lifelong Manchester Township resident, small business owner in the area with HTJ Lawn Care, and football coach at the high school. What's going on, Tim?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's always good. And, like I said, we've known each other forever. You've been basically a big brother to me, because me and your brother, Chris, have been best friends for a real long time, ran together. And it's basically, you were always just like the big brother, just giving us noogies and everything like that whenever we were hanging out. So it's always fun. And, you've been super active in the community, doing a lot of things. And one of the things that you're doing right now is you're on a historic Manchester High School football staff, coaching over there. I want to jump right into that, because I wanted to give credit. We've had Coach Farrell on for 2 years in a row, talking about the beginning of the season. We had seniors on with him, the captains, talking all about it, and we loved all that. And I don't know if Dave and I could even predict that you guys would start off 4-0, first time in Manchester history, with a huge game coming up this weekend. So I want to start off, what has it been like being a part of the staff and experiencing this with the team?
It's been great. It's been great for the kids, in town, experiencing something different. And they have a top-notch coach, Tommy Farrell. Tommy Farrell, he relates to the kids like I've never seen before, and he holds them accountable. Sitting there and, his motto is dig. So, discipline, intellect, and grit. And then the kids follow that. And we were able to raise some money this year and get the kids new uniforms. And they're awesome. And it has that motto on the back of each uniform, as if, your name was on the back of a normal uniform. Mm-hmm. Some will say discipline, some will say intellect, and some will say grit. And we even refer to that, during the games, if the kids aren't being disciplined at some point, or, hey, suck it up. It's time. It's grit, kind of get to it. And he has such a great coaching staff. I'm like the assistant volunteer defensive back coach. our secondary DB coach was the head coach at Asbury Park. And then we have another head coach, Gerard O'Donnell, OD. And then you have Bob Masseri. You have such a wealth of knowledge around this program like we've never, ever had here before.
Yeah, and it's just really cool. And I saw, last year they had the yellow helmets and they look pretty good too. This year, those white helmets with the block M, and just the way that the jerseys are going back to like the cursive Hawks across, like it just looks classy. It looks like this team is walking in every time to a game to go take care of business. And it is really exciting. And, I'm an alumni of the football program. Tim, you're an alumni of the football program. David played up to freshman ball. So we've all been a part of this program. And it's just the pride of seeing this program succeed. How has that been, being a former player and, a pretty good player yourself as well, coming in, and we all had high expectations. We all had talent on our teams and things like that. Has it been cool having that perspective of being a former player as well and being able to relate to the athletes in that sense?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, knowing, where we came from. I mean, we talked about it last week. I was part of the 2003 3-0 team, and then we lost 7 in a row after that.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's not going to happen this year. Even talking to my dad on the sideline when my dad came, I'm like, how do you like the new Manchester? New Manchester, new character, new attitude.
Yeah.
And I mean, being part of the first playoff team in 2004,
yep.
I still have my old long sleeve shirt. It's like 20 something years old now. Almost, I should say. And, the big thing on there is the bar has been set, and my thing is I want to see these kids crush any and all records that I may have been part of, not part of. I don't care. Make new ones. That bar is kind of, it's going to be a little lower, the one that we set back then. And I'm proud to be part of that. I want these kids to crush through those goals. I mean, it would be great if we can get a playoff win this year. That's never happened. Been in the playoffs twice, but never had a win. I mean, one step at a time. I think the boys are even more capable than just a win in the playoffs because they play for one another.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I want to talk about Josh Love has been absolutely dynamic all year. I think it's something, doesn't he have something like 600 yards running already and almost 800 yards from scrimmage? Did I read that correctly somewhere? That he is just bulldozing over everybody. And, guys like him, guys like Manny Swain, Aiden Lund, like there are so many guys to talk about, but talk about Josh a little bit. What has it been like being around? Because we've had some really good running backs in Manchester. Manchester has never had a lack of talent in running back from Kevin Malice, Calvin Zawacki, Amani Richardson, like just really good running backs. What has it been like being around a kid that dynamic and that good that's able to do what he does with the football?
I mean, it's a game changer. He is something else. Even as a young man, he is outstanding, great personality, brings good energy. And he just wants to work. I mean, he leads the state with 14 touchdowns too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on fire. But I mean, we had, I played with Kevin growing up, and Kevin Malice was a big bruiser, strong as could be. But this kid is not only strong. I mean, he's shifty. He can spin off stuff. He take his yards after contact. We don't even capture that. But if we did, it would definitely probably, I think, leading the state just in that category alone. Because, I mean, if you watch some of the film from Barnegat and a few of the other games, I mean, he's just hitting people, spinning off him and going, oh, there's another arm tackle. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, and you got to give credit always to the big guys up front. The offensive line, oh, my God, these kids are working their tails off, pancaking kids over and over on film. I mean, and I could say that he's definitely grateful for his linemen and what they do for him too, because they're definitely a help.
Now, I'm a Marist guy. We have football and things like that. But man, kids like Josh, I want to steer towards Rutgers. Can we start like already planting that seed? Because I want Rutgers to be successful. Because, there's no reason if he keeps doing what he's doing, Coach Shiano's got to take notice. Like there's no way that he can't take notice. I want to start, let's get Kevin involved. Let's get him over to Rutgers. I'm already steering him there. Has there been any talks with any teams or anything that you could talk about, or even if there's vagaries that teams are interested in him already in college?
Yeah, I know people are definitely looking at him. I don't know the extent. That's something I let Tommy handle.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of stay out of that. If I could be helpful, sure, I'll help him with anything, but that's more Tommy's avenue.
Well, having a podcast, having Kevin on one of my last shows, I'm going to text him and I'm going to say, hey, let's get this going. Let's get this wheel going here, because I want this kid to be successful in a big time school, and damn it, let's get Rutgers big time. That's a big goal right there. But the last thing I want to talk about this weekend with football, you guys are playing Keyport. Keyport's 3-1. They are pretty high in the PowerPoints in where they are right now. Manchester with their 4 wins, the way PowerPoints works, the teams that they have beaten are not high in PowerPoints. So Manchester's still sitting in the middle of the table in terms of where their PowerPoints are. A win against Keyport would be huge. Going to get a PowerPoint lift, better position for playoffs. What's the preparation been like from the coaching staff standpoint, preparing for Keyport, what they bring, and how Manchester is going to attack them?
I mean, we have an extra day this week. I don't know if you've been keeping up on the weather, but the game actually just got pushed up on Saturday to 10 a.m. So, I mean, the kids are locked in. Once we were done with Keyport, it's on to the next game. And or Keensburg. After we were done with Keensburg, I should say, it was on to Keyport, and everybody was locked in right away. I mean, everybody's hungry. Everybody's working this week. The big thing this week, you're going to have wet footballs, which is huge. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a big run game on both sides. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think our passing attack is way better than theirs. But at the end of the day, they have a good running game as well, as do we, and it ball's wet. So probably teams are going to stick to the run. Yep. And they're going to see, who does an arm tackle, who wraps up, and who shows up. And I think we're going to prevail there. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think we're going to pull it out.
I think we're going to see a big Manny Swain game this week. I think he's going to be a crusher because he's been so good on the D-line. Just the things that he's been able to do is awesome. Now, I also want to ask you, coming from me and you, both former football players, varsity players, how much of a game changer has Hudl been? Hudl's freaking awesome in terms of all the game tape and everything being right there at your disposal. And our coaches were good about getting us game film, getting us, the study guides and things like that, the scouting reports. But it's right there at the players' fingertips now. Like, there's no excuse. If you're a player, there is not an excuse to watch film. How do you guys hold the guys accountable for that? And how good have the athletes been about watching film for Hudl? And do you guys have to kind of reel them back and make sure they're not doing it during class?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of kids are locked in with it. Tommy did send out like some correspondence with the guys, emails. I think actually it's an app, Band app. That's where we do our correspondence. But, he sends out, hey, these are the list of guys that didn't log in to film the past 2 days. Like we keep the kids accountable. Mm-hmm. And we haven't seen much of that lately.
That's awesome.
And because the kids are locked in, that was more so over the summer because I think, it's camp, and then the kids we're kind of watching different films from different teams initially, like seeing where we're going, and the process of them learning film. But they're locked in, man. This is something different. I haven't seen us ever be like this, as a town. Because I mean, the games, like, they're packed. I can't remember the last time we turned around and they're like, "Wow, look at this." And there were, game or two we were down. And it's good. The boys face some adversity initially, and then they come back, they step down with their foot, and they push through.
Yeah. I'm excited for it. 4-0, hopefully going to make it 5-0 this week. And, it's going to be, David, you'll be there.
Yes,
you'll
probably be there this Saturday.
You'll have his Buffon probably sitting on the sideline again. So you'll get to go make fun of him. Make sure you make fun of him for that hair. Make fun of him, please, for that hair. But it's exciting. I'm pumped for Manchester football. You guys have a great staff over there. You have great kids. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited to follow the game because I will not be there. But Tim, your involvement in the community does not stop with being a football coach. You are somebody that, I ran away from Manchester. I left. I came up to Poughkeepsie where, I went to college, met my wife, came up
right.
Here. David's over in West Virginia. Mm-hmm. You've stayed in Manchester and you're super involved, coming down, having a small business in the area and doing a lot of things. What's made you want to give back, and what specifically are you doing in the town right now that is keeping you so involved?
I mean, I've always kind of wanted to give back. I don't really think much of it. It's just kind of what you do.
Yeah.
Like every year we plant, the trees at the Little League field for people either that have passed and it's a memorial plaque or somebody who they're just honoring that year. Like we've been doing that, I don't even know how long at this point. But I mean, just being involved from when I graduated college in Little League, coaching my younger brother and his friends growing up. I mean, I was always, and I never thought of getting paid or anything like that. I'm like, oh, it's just kind of what you're supposed to do. You give back to community, you build kids into men. I think every kid that I coached on the travel team we had, then they're all successful adults now. I mean, young adults, at 21 years old, but they're all going off the right path. Mm-hmm. And, that's important. And then in the other aspects, I mean, doing like the Fallen Hawks guard and doing the waterfall. I mean, that was something, Nick's part of that guard and other people we went to school with, and Tara Gardner had passed. She was one of my teachers, I think probably one of yours. And so I was like, replace the tree. I'm like, I don't want $1. I don't want anything. Like I was, afforded in my opinion, a pretty good education in Manchester, but some may say no, some may say yes. And, I think, me, being in special education until 10th grade, I mean, I succeeded pretty well, and the teachers put time into me. And sometimes they, put me in my place when I wanted to be or not, at that time of my life. But it was good because, I give them a lot of credit, the educators in town here and, my father and parents, pushing me along the way to be in the position I am now where I have, a successful business with several employees and I can send them to go do stuff and I'll bring a guy with me and, hey, I'll go over and I'll, do whatever needs to be done around town. I get calls every now and then. There's a few veterans I know around town and, older gentlemen in their 70s that, no one takes care of their properties and they were getting violations from the town. So I was every now and then I send the guys over like, hey, go just cut this lawn real quick. Yeah. And, just because it's the right thing to do. My thing is you do good, you have good karma, good comes back to you.
Definitely. So how much influence has your dad been on the way you are with the community? Because your dad was always very involved with the community. He ran for office a number of times and was always wanted to be involved, always wanted to be doing something in the community. Growing up, seeing that, did that influence you a good amount becoming the man you are to be involved? And, is your dad pumped that you're as involved as you are? Because I know he was always someone that was, tried to be involved and tried to be a part of the fabric of Manchester.
Yeah, like I raised my dad. My dad's like, my heartbeat. We've been through a lot together, being that, he was a single dad for some time too, before we married. Things weren't easy. Mm-hmm. And he always, strived to do the right thing. So for me, it was like kind of second nature. I mean, I made a mistake like any other person in this world, and I've done things I sure regret, like anybody else. But I've always saw my dad have, that drive to say, this isn't right. I don't agree with this. And he pushed forward, win or lose sometimes. I was on the short end of the stick last year. And, I'll still say this and I'll say still, even a blind squirrel gets a nut every now and then when there's a runoff. Mm-hmm. I do it all over again. But at the end of the day, my heart wasn't there for any money or anything else, in that council position back then. It was to do the right thing by the town where I feel that I can influence, and, when you have local politics or local board of ed or anything, it's not Republican, Democrat when you're on this level. It's really just doing what's right for the town, taxes, public safety, parks, infrastructure, water. I mean, things like that are important, but you don't have to really isolate on just, if it's right or left. Because again, it doesn't really apply down when you're down this low. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you really want to have an impact, do it on the bottom here in the municipal end. Mm-hmm. Because if you're from town, you have more of that sense of pride that, you want to do the right thing. You want to do it by, the goodness of people in your town. Because I remember, when I was just starting my business and you had people that had been my clients, a few years at the time that are still my clients, and I still remember where I came. I'm like, I remember when I was out there pushing these small lawnmowers and doing all these other things, and now where everything's evolved to, being, I guess being driven is a good thing. Sometimes you take too much on your plate. It's exhausting, But on the other hand, what else would you do? Sit home and watch Netflix all day long? I mean, I don't, I want to be out there doing stuff.
Yeah. I just remember when you were first starting your business and I'd be like trying to like call Chris. I'd be like, hey, trying to hang out. He's like, nah, got to go help Tim cut some lawns and he needs me. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll see you later. So I just remember, it was just, you've had this business for a long time and it really doesn't feel like that long ago, but you've had this for a long freaking time. How many years have you had your lawn care business now?
Well, it was my dad's for a long time. I LLC'd this about 8 years ago, like in my name, as my dad started to get out, because my dad's in his mid-60s now.
Yeah.
And so he had the business, years before I was born. So, I'm 36. He probably had the business over 40 years ago at this point. So when I was 15, 16, I started to work like really full time, like every summer. And then when I was 16, 17, I started taking over the billing and stuff. So I was basically running most of the day to day at that point. When I was 17, I could say at a minimum. Yeah. So you're talking almost 20 years now, and learning from the ground up.
It's crazy to think about. Like I said, I just remember when you were really starting to take the reins, and it's cool to see that, you're still doing it, and you've definitely, ACJ is a part of Manchester. It's not surprising to just see you when I'm in a mower, see some of your guys out there, and it's awesome. So what is your advice to anybody that, because, one of the toughest things when you're sitting there and you see things and you want to get involved, most people just don't know where to start, right? It's the toughest thing is figuring out where to start. And it's like, do I go to a council meeting? Do I go to a board of ed meeting? What do I do when I go there? What can I do when I go to these things? So if somebody's listening to this in Manchester, in whatever town they live in, and they're just like, I see a bunch of things going wrong. I want to fix something, but I don't know even where to start. What would be your advice for someone to start at if they're trying to make an impact local?
You can get involved in anything. There's so many nonprofits between Pop Warner, or AYF, I should say now, but
yeah,
whatever it's called now, right? That, youth football, youth baseball, any youth sports, like getting involved and helping just run the programs. If you have any, knowledge, like even like our we had a rec wrestling program at one point. It kind of like dwindled because we didn't have anybody that was willing to do it. Like if somebody has that ability and they can help, even at like a low rec level, that's huge for the community as a whole. It depends really what you want to get involved in. If you want to go, on the planning or zoning board or another board, you can contact the mayor and try to, get a meeting with them, and maybe he'll throw you on there, depending what openings and vacancies, because I'm on the planning board too. So you see things that are coming through the town that's, getting proposed, and, you see different avenues and aspects. And then being on a Little League board, you see other things going on there that's going around the league, and they can contact me, they can contact anybody. I'll have plenty of ideas. There's plenty of organizations that you can get involved with. There's volunteer opportunities all the time. So
what's it like balancing? Because you have 2 kids, you have a wife, you work. What's it like balancing all that with the volunteer? Because I think that's another reason why people are kind of timid or have trepidation. Like, I have a family, I have so many things to do, I have work. What's it like trying to balance all that? And obviously, you have a rock star of a wife, so that helps that you have somebody that's supportive of you being involved so much. But, again, how do you kind of balance everything that you're trying to do in the community, as well as being, an awesome dad, an awesome husband, and everything like that?
Yeah, it's a lot. My wife, Heather, she's my rock, and she takes care of a lot, on the back end that people don't say.
Yeah, shout out to Heather.
So I give her, a lot of credit, even though I don't say it all the time. But it is tough. It's not easy. But my thing is, if it was easy, then everybody would do it.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of balance, I balance my work schedule at the police department and being a police sergeant. So I do the scheduling. So I work my days there. I have that set. And then my other days I have set. I know which days I can kind of go to football. But as a volunteer, you kind of have to set your own parameters to start with. Like, hey, I know reasonably I can only be at, say, 2 football practices a week because it just doesn't allow it, right? As long as you can commit to your own goal and it's reasonable, it has to be reasonable. If it's not reasonable, don't even give yourself a goal because you're probably not going to hit it. So I'll focus on basically I have an old school planner. I don't even do it on my phone. And I literally will handwrite in and color coordinate meetings. I will write down like, okay, I have a Board of Ed meeting this day, a planning board meeting this day. I have a council meeting because I sit in on the council meetings for my police department. I know I have to be there this day. That's like I can't get off day. So, and then my son's baseball games, I help coach his travel team. So I pencil that in there. And then the football games, I pencil that. It's all in different colors. So I can kind of see where I'm moving and where I'm going. And then I ask my wife in between, hey, do we have anything, vacations or weddings? I don't remember. And then that goes in the written down. And so I think she gets annoyed sometimes because I ask her 3 or 4 times. I'm like, hey, because it just comes across my brain. But the biggest thing is being able to just schedule and, whatever business you're involved in, definitely having like a solid guy you can lean on, like a number 2. That's, your right-hand guy. It's huge because you're able to push the schedule out. I need this, and this, take care of this. And it's taken care of. I mean, without some of my guys on that end, I would be, in bad shape.
Yeah.
Because, they're loyal. Like my landscape guys stay with me a long time. I treat them well, and I've had guys come and go. I could tell you I've had guys come and go over the last 8 years, and they're back in a few months typically because they're like, I said, oh, the grass isn't that green over there, huh? The grass is a lot greener initially, and then after the honeymoon phase, it kind of faded out. Because everybody will tell you what they want to hear, but what reality is what reality is.
Mm-hmm. I can't let my wife listen to this episode because the fact that you're so freaking organized. I quite literally tell my wife, Julie, I'm like, you're my planner. And she's like, no, you're a grown ass man. I'm like, what do we, I don't know if we have things to do. So no, I can't let her listen to that because you'll get me in trouble, Tim. Don't get me in trouble.
Oh, you should see my desk a little bit. It's not as organized as my planner. So my wife will tell you that too. So that's my next task is like I'm actually organizing that out really well now. That's my my top goal for the end of the year when it starts to get a little cooler and landscaping dies off. Mm-hmm. But
more time. Just you'll what though? I figure you'll figure out a way to stack more on your plate. Be like, hey, I don't have landscaping now, so let me go volunteer here.
Well, usually what I do in the winter, like probably what I'll do is I'll go help out in the weight room or something at the high school. I'll go over with the kids and I'm like, I'll just go work out with them.
Mm-hmm. A win-win. That is a win-win, absolutely. And and I love that too because for the longest time they were resistant to having the weight room open as often as it sounds like it is now. And I love the fact that if a coach is available, the weight room's open. If you guys want to lift, like that's the way it should be. To have a successful program, you have to have kids that want to lift, and you have to have the access to do it. So, not to jump back completely to the football program, but I do love just all of that going on in the community stuff. Mm-hmm. So I also want to jump right now. Is it a temporary appointment right now to the Board of Education? Is that what you have at the moment?
Yeah, it's a temporary appointment. It filled Ken Pate's spot. And Ken was there, a long time. And I mean, I graduated high school with his son. So Ken lived in town a long, long time. I think over 40 years, because I think his daughter was 4 years older than me, if I remember correctly. So yeah, Ken did a good job. So it's temporary till the end of the year, and then the election consists of I guess myself and 2 other incumbents. I'm running with 1 incumbent, and she's running on another slate. So there's 2 slates.
Okay, so what has that been like sitting in on Board of Education meetings and hearing all the things that come across? Because Board of Education has been really big and really important over the last, I want to say 4 to 6 years. There's been a lot of noise made about things going on in education and that type of stuff. So what has it been like sitting there listening to the things, having conversations with a lot of the people on the Board of Ed, hearing all the different point of views? What has that all been like?
It's interesting. I mean, I've only officially sat down in 1 meeting so far, and the other one will be next week. But it's just interesting. I mean, just hearing, what comes down, what the Board of Ed can control, what they can't control as a board, and it's interesting just kind of seeing like the inner aspect, which I knew, not all of it. I'm still learning now. But I knew some stuff, like certain curriculums. It's mandated by the state, whether you want it or not. You're doing it. Mm-hmm. there's certain things that are mandated, just like in my profession as police officer, whether you like to do it or not, guess what? You're doing it this way. Okay. And if you don't, you're going to get in trouble. Well, in this case, I think the big thing now with the Board of Ed as a whole is just parental rights, really.
Yeah.
I mean, and you see people that are kind of taking it to different extremes. And there's a simple thing with like these book bans and stuff that are going on. With the book bans, I mean, you can just simply say to the teacher, hey, I don't want my child to read this book. Can you provide them other reading material? And they have to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand what the issue is there. Okay, there was books when we grew up, that probably weren't politically correct. And I remember a few, like of Mice and Men, probably is not politically correct now, right?
I'll say this though, there's nothing compared to like genderqueer and things that are going on now. I've read genderqueer, and I always remember in like the high school there was always like the 18 plus section, right? And that was always a thing where you had to be a certain age to go in that section. And for me, that if that book or books like that would be the section for it. You know what I mean? But like the issue I found is that, obviously it's national stuff, but it's like when those types of books and things go down to the middle and elementary school level, which I don't think would happen in Manchester because just the fabric of the town, but that's where I think the issue falls. And I feel like people that understand the things like you do and have a pulse on the things because you are a little younger, you are a little more politically savvy with things. That's where I think someone like you to kind of be a safeguard for parents that have those types of things is good to have around in that board area.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of hot topics that have been going around. Yeah. I mean, and I kind of look at it as, if somebody comes to me, I'll be a voice for them and try to get what they need out there. And how they feel, as long as you're reasonable, anything can be reasoned out as long as you're reasonable with the other party. It's not that hard. But people kind of forget themselves and get fixated, I think, a lot, where they need to.
Social media has so much to do with that because they read the things on Facebook and they'll read like a meme and they'll be like, well, that's true. And then like, they'll like bring it to the Board of Ed and verbatim say a meme. And then you look at them and you're like, and what else do you have to say? Like, and people come out there with like half-ass, half-cocked things when they're speaking.
Yeah, like Facebook facts. I don't know how many facts there really are.
I tell everyone there's no truth on social media. If you believe it, it's probably wrong. Go research the other side.
You're right. Do your own research and give yourself a reasonable, justification to make your decision. Just don't, knee jerk off of Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's got to be complicated, right? Because like in reality, Board of Ed probably shouldn't be political for the most part. It's supposed
to be nonpartisan.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, what is best for the kids, what curriculum is here, how can we improve the schools, where are we failing the kids right now, where are we succeeding to make it better? And it's unfortunate that it's become such a political thing. Have you seen, so in your first meeting, did you see a lot of people show up there? Was it like a packed house? Was there not?
It was a light meeting because it was over the summer because,
Okay.
People don't really go to things in the summer because, I mean, hey, it's nice outside. Enjoy the last month or two. But yeah, this month I'm sure will be a little busier. October, I'm sure will be busy because things, problems start, school starts and things like that. I mean, I think there's definitely some things that definitely need to be addressed. I mean, my personal thing is save Whiting School. Like, I'm going to, fight tooth and nail and not allow that to become a pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to voice my opinion for, the people out in Whiting. I don't know one out here wants that, nor do they want their fifth grader to go to the middle school. That's a whole nother thing, and this is just stuff I've heard, nothing I've read from the board or anything like that. So, but again, I want to make sure that none of that happens. That's important to me. It's important to the people in the community, and it's what the people want out there, not just, Tim Poss, my 1 of 8 votes. I can voice for, the people that tell me stuff like an attendance officer. I think that's huge, and it has to happen here. We see our busing go from 31,000 about 3 years ago to over 400,000 this year.
Wow.
I have people calling me probably, and before I was even on the board, you're talking 6 months ago, saying, hey, they sold this house 2 months ago and families that don't live in our town are now boarding the bus, and the kids don't live in the house.
That's wild.
So they're abusing the district. There's families that find out, because I know in Pemberton Township they had that issue too with pre-K, because now we have that. So what people were doing is they were saying they lived in Pemberton Township when they really lived on base or they lived somewhere else, and it was costing the town a ton of money for all these kids that, you know, you'd have to pay for daycare. Hey, suck it up, Buttercup. I had to pay a ton of money to take care for my kids. Nobody likes to do it. But it is what it is. And if you don't live in that district, you unfortunately don't get the benefits. So I think it's important to have like a retired law enforcement officer knows how to do investigations. They can go out and just verify that, you know, hey, this house just sold. These people moved in, and these are the people that are getting the services from our town. That's all. It's that simple, you know, but I think you'll see that there's a lot more going on than just a few phone calls I get. And it could save, in my opinion, hundreds of thousands of dollars as time progresses.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to ask you what your opinion is with school safety, because that's obviously a huge hot button topic. School shootings have gone up, and I think it's a little exaggerated at times. I think social media and 24/7 news exaggerates some things, but it's obvious that it's going on. And I know all parents are kind of nervous about that. You know, my opinion, I think we need to end gun-free zones. I freaking hate them. I think it makes our kids freaking fish in a barrel for psychos. That's just me. I don't know if that's a state mandated thing and it's something that a district can't do on their own. Well, I don't know the ins and outs of that. But for me personally, I think that, you know, I would love to see, you know, I'm more of a small government guy. I don't want to spend a ton of taxes. But if it calls for putting a resource officer per 500 kids there, so you have multiple officers to help out, that's something that I would love to see happen. Or so what would your ideas be in order to assure the people of the town that their kids are going to the safest schools possible?
I mean, I think personally, you know, there should be a cop in every school.
Yes.
So a class 3 is what should be in every school this year, which is a retired officer that now just basically works in the schools. And that's different from your SRO being at the high school. So my personal thing with that is it's very important because young children build a positive relationship with police right off the bat. So you're going to have a trust factor there, even if, you know, unfortunately you have, you know, issues at home and the police come in and they have to arrest a parent or something like that. Kids get negative assumptions about police after that. But, you know, when you build a good relationship at school, you're like, well, Officer so-and-so is so nice. And if they kickball with me, you're going to have a positive relationship, even if something unfortunate like that did happen to you. And just, it's this simple. And you don't have to, you know, really dig into analytics. I mean, a gun stops a gun, period. So by having an armed officer in school that's there for the protection, he can radio people immediately. He can, and get, you know, help there ASAP, and he can stop the threat since he's there or she's there. That's huge. That's irreplaceable. And whatever money that costs as a taxpayer, I'd like to give me the bill.
Yeah, seriously. That's something I would gladly raise my taxes for. 100%.
You know, in school radios, I mean, I heard they were having an issue with like the walkie-talkies for security at the high school. So that's something I'm going to bring up this week, because I'm going to, you know, I don't care what it costs. I heard, you know, it costs $5,000 to $8,000. I'm like, that's peanuts. Yeah, $5,000 to $8,000 when you think about, you know, radios losing reception and the importance of that, because we have somebody on. That school's big now. Not, you know, you saw the end of it probably, but it was just getting done when I was there. But you have all those different wings. It's all spread out. I mean, the old brick that's there, I'm sure blocks a lot of, you know, radio signal.
Probably.
So, I mean, it's important. I mean, because things happen so fast. And until something happens, you know, close to home, people don't react, you know, quickly. You know, I've been to a lot of training. I saw the most recent one I saw was actually pretty interesting. It was about the Amish shootings in Pennsylvania. And this was back in like 2006 it happened. And the sergeant who responded to the scene actually gave this training at the police expo. And it was very interesting, the whole dynamic, how it worked, and, you know, things that can be better and things that can be improved. And it was even back then, it was little things that could have made a difference in certain, you know, areas there, which, you know, have been improved now. But the basics are the basics. Like, get an officer in that school, period. Get extra security guys in the school if you're having issues. Pay that little bit of extra money. We can budget for it.
Yeah.
I think if you're more transparent and explain to people why their taxes are going up, sometimes they really don't care because they understand. And my thing too is I'm not going to have time this year, but me and Tommy Farrell did speak about this, and we had a good conversation in regards to, bringing the seniors and getting busing for them out to the football games. Because that's the biggest sporting event, or even if they have like big baseball games to come out there.
Yeah.
Because, they pay school taxes too, even though their children aren't in the schools anymore. So for them, we kind of like, they would feel engaged. They'd feel important. Like they're wanted at these games, and they may be like, I really don't mind paying this tax as much because now I see, these kids are succeeding. They're doing good, and you're having a good time. They come out and support the school, and I'm supporting the school. Like, it's a sense of investment.
And you guys have those bleachers by the end zone too, and that could be a section because it's easy to, you don't have to go all the way up in the stands, and they're right there on the field. I feel like that would make them feel even better if they're able to be like right there looking at the action up close and personal. I feel like that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, like a village or two each time.
Yeah.
I think it would be good. It'd just be good for the community, and that's what I try to I pick people's brains, and we go back and forth and try to think of new ideas to try to get people more involved just in general.
So another thing I think that you're going to tackle, which is everyone's tackling, is all the mental health stuff, right? Mental health is like another big hot button topic. And my personal thing is, we've been, pardon my French, fucking with mental health of kids since we were young. Since we were being told, if you don't do X, the world's going to end. If you guys don't start helping out doing X, the world will end by this day. And that can really mess with a kid's brain because you're so impressionable, and it starts at a young level. And, I just think that we need to stop telling kids the world's going to end. Right now, 2030, the world's going to end. So you're telling a bunch of kids that the world's going to end in 2030 if you don't start doing some things that has nothing to do with you guys, really. And, I think that the more the mental health crisis is caused by some of the things that go on. So when I know you're going to encounter this, and I don't know if it's going on in Manchester yet, but there's a push to get more and more social workers involved in the schools. And I think that absolutely is like the wrong thing to do, because I just think we need to switch up our messaging. And I don't know if that has something to do with curriculum or if that's something that teachers take on their own to do. But what would you do in order to kind of alleviate mental health and help, the students that may need it, and, try and fix that issue in our area?
I mean, any mental health issue that arises, a lot of it can be dealt with, and the biggest thing is communication, because a lot of people just keep their feelings, built in, and, being that, they instilled a policy or a directive, I should say, for all police departments to have a resiliency officer. So I'm a resiliency officer. It's like our mental health officer. And basically, so if you're having issues at home, you could be going through a divorce or whatever is going on, right? And somebody from a whole nother department, from a whole nother county could come see Tim Poss because they want to see me, and I'll sit down with them and get them, where they need to go. Certain criteria that we have to go through.
Yeah.
But I think there's something similar that, probably can be done in-house at the schools versus having all these social workers. Like, no, they do their job and they're good at their job, the social workers, but there's like a time and place, really. Maybe they should have, guidance counselors cross-trained in certain things a little more. Maybe they should, but I don't have that in front of me, so I can't see what type of policy or what, could be touched up. But as for like mental health in general, I think, an idea I could, spitball coming up with here is just kind of how, we police our own, and we now have resiliency officers within police departments. You could have one, or two or three or four within each grade, if that's something. And then basically they just report it kindly to a teacher after you speak to them, and you kind of just push it down the line, if that's appropriate or not. I don't know if there's anything saying you're not allowed to do that, because it's medical, but yes and no. When it comes to that stuff, they want that little bit of, HIPAA stuff to kind of be put aside, I guess. so you can get the help you need, because then you're not helped at all. As long as they come up with some confidentiality thing for, the kids that would be involved as like the, say mental health liaison or whatever you may want to call it.
Yeah. I will say one real quick, one thing. I mean, speaking as a guy, I can only really speak as a guy when it comes to mental health issues, but I know just boys in general, like usually we like to, if there's something going on, we usually like to throw ourselves into an activity. So, I mean, a liaison could help, but I also feel like even if you just steer a boy to have a passion in something, like it could be sports, it could be whatever it needs to be. But having a passion in something somewhere to get away where you don't necessarily even need to think about it, and you could even process while doing whatever you're doing in order for you to just get through whatever you need to get through. Obviously, speaking helps. But just when it comes to boys in general, I just feel like we generally enjoy having something to get lost in. So I feel like having those just available, or somewhere like you could push someone to go say, hey, try this out. Try to do this, like some kind of project that they would be interested in, or some kind of team that they would like to join would definitely help.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I just remember when we were back in high school, I feel like there's a dynamic that's changed between the teachers and the students, because there were always those cool teachers, but for the most part, they were adults, right? They were authority figures. They were adults. And whether you liked it or not, you liked the teacher, you didn't like it, you had to respect them enough, right? Because we had teachers we didn't like, but we still, our parents would whoop our ass if they found out that we disrespected a teacher. You know what I mean? It would always be, where the shift has changed to what did you do to my kid? Our parents would look at us and go, if you're lying to me, I'm going to kill you. I'll defend you. But if you're lying, that's the end of you. Like, you better make sure you're honest with me. And I feel like there might be a dynamic shift with teachers right now where when kids used to have problems, they had that teacher, they had that coach that they would go and open up to. And if it was something serious, as a mandated reporter, the teachers and coaches would do what they have to do as a mandated reporter, because that's where they stand. And I just want you, obviously you don't know, you haven't been in the position for a long time, but if you could kind of delve into if there's a difference in a relationship shift where the teachers are less of those confidants in that way and, doing what they need to do as mandated reporters and being those adult figures for a bunch of kids going through puberty trying to figure it out. And, I think that's tall task to ask one person on the board, but if it's something that you could try to snake in and see if there's any changes there. Because like I said, I remember we had people, Coach Savitsky, Mr. Cornish, all the coaches that I've ever had are people that I figured, I could go and talk to if I had an issue. You know what I mean? So that's something that it seems like there's a dynamic shift there where people are more friends with their teachers and less, this is my authority figure when I'm in this school.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think that's a culture shift just in general, as our generations are getting older and, things are just changing.
Yeah, we're the old men now. We are definitely the old men. So if you're talking to a voter right now, if we had voters in front of us, you're trying to talk to them, what is your message to voters as why you should remain in your seat at the Board of Ed?
I mean, I'm just going to, let people know, I care about the town. I know the town. I'm invested in the town. I lived here my entire life. I have 2 young kids that attend the schools in this town. I've attended all the schools in this town, as have my 4 siblings. And everyone in my, family has done well for themselves, and they're succeeding because of the education system here. So I want to be part of, enhancing, our youth here and make sure that they have the opportunity to still succeed and still do better. And, by maintaining, the taxes with the school board the best we can too, because certain things are regulated, certain things aren't. Funding's a whole nother issue the state's pulling, but, that's a whole nother story. But, I'll do what I can, and I'll listen to everybody that, wants to reach out to me. I'll absolutely go and, voice their opinion and get it out there and, let them be heard. And I really want to, again, have a voice on the west side of town, because there is none. So at least, people out here feel like they have a little bit of representation on this side of town. And I mean, and we have a great slate. I mean, we have Laura Wingler, who's an incumbent, and she does a good job, and she's outspoken, which is great. And then Gloria Atkinson, who we're running with, she's great too. Retired teacher, has a lot of experience, and she has grandchildren invested in this town, so, and Laura has kids in this school district as well. So, I mean, our slate has children in the schools that are involved and have lived here for more than 10 years, frankly, over maybe combined on the other side. So we know the town. Like, I know the kids here. I know the families here, and to me, it's important, to, serve these people and their kids. It's funny because I see a shift out here. I'm like, I remember, you lived in Pine Lake, and now we all kind of live in Whiting. And then some of the people that stayed in town and live out in Whiting, we're all kind of out here now. It's kind of funny how things, change. And then, somebody, lived in Hollyoaks and you grew up and you live in Pine Lake. Now you live down the street from them, but it's nice seeing that these people that, we grew up with are still in this town, and that's why I care, and, I'd even, sit down with, I want to sit down with some senior communities just to explain to them, the importance of this and everything else, because it's tough. I mean, the last few years with the inflation and everything else, it's tough on every family. Absolutely. Let's be honest. So to try to keep, everything intact for the kids is important too, to make sure they have their sports, even though, hey, taxes go up a little bit, but let's keep them out of trouble. That's more important when it's the big picture.
And we know Manchester, like every other town, when the kids just go home and they don't have a sport, they don't do an extracurricular, even if it's band or even if it's dance, cheer, they go to clubs. If you're going directly home every single day, you're probably going to get yourself in trouble. It's real easy to do in Manchester.
It sure is.
We've had a lot of our friends go down some slopes that, we probably, wish they didn't. That's just the best way to put it. And,
right.
He's pretty good with that, with having a lot of kids that do that. So it is important to make sure. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with, and you don't have to comment on it because I don't want to get you in trouble. I request, as a former resident, go to war to keep diversity, inclusion, equity, and social emotional learning the fuck out of Manchester schools, because it is absolute poison. You don't have to comment. I don't want to get you in trouble with anything, but it is a poison for the school system from K through 12. And that's where I'll leave that. So if you don't want to comment, you don't have to. You have a seat. I could just be a crazy host yelling at you, but I'm the old man yelling at clouds right now. All right. So Dave, do you have any other comments? Because you're just sitting there. You made your one.
Yeah, no, I've been very tired. I'm sorry. But I enjoyed the hell out of this conversation. It's always good to have someone from back in Manchester to come on the show, especially someone as involved as Tim is. So I'll see you Saturday.
Sounds good.
I can't wait. Can't wait for another win.
So once again, thanks for coming on, brother. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, so once again, he is Tim Poss. He's a Manchester resident. He is currently sitting on the Board of Education. If you like what you heard, hell, go vote for him if you're in the area, and contact him. He's easy to locate. If you just HTJ Lawn Care, you can get in touch with him many ways. He'll be around. He's cutting grass. He's a police officer, in a town near us. And he's a high school football coach. You can go talk to him on Friday, Saturdays. So he will be there. So Tim, anything else you want to give a shout out to before we jump out of here?
No, just I appreciate you having me. And, I look forward to getting another win this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So, yeah, definitely go Manchester, beat Keyport. And if you guys like what you heard, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify, and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the social. Search the Alex Cluster Show. And unlike the last time I signed off, we will be back next week. I will not have any more organs pulled out of me.
Yeah, stop being a baby.
Shut up, David. All right, everyone. We will see you next week. So long, y'all.